group, to be part of our group life here at Gateway. So, moving swiftly on, we are in the middle of a series, called, I very nearly said called then, entitled Called. And this morning, we are going to be looking at how we are called a family. And I was so excited when I saw that this was the title of what I was going to be speaking about this morning, because this truth, this reality that we are called a family as the people of God has been something which has completely captured my heart since I became a Christian when I was 14 years old. Like, this reality that we as the people of God are a family and all the things that go along that has been something that I've just loved since becoming a Christian. And my experience has very much been, as I became a Christian, it very much felt like coming home into a family. And I just, as kind of in the first meeting, as we were worshiping, I just really felt prophetically that there's going to be someone here this morning who your experience of family is not necessarily have been a positive one. So that your experience of family has been one which has been negative, potentially, or even church has been a negative experience. And actually, the idea of talking about family and being part of a family is actually one that fills you with dread or fear. And I just felt like God just wants to speak to you this morning and to just heal some of those hurts, because ultimately, our hope and our trust is not in the church. Our hope and our trust is in God. Because people, including God's people, are still sinful and they are still ignorant and they still mess up. But God is none of those things. And it's actually as we walk together, becoming like Jesus, that we can help one another know God more and allow God to minister to our hearts. So just if that is you this morning, I just want to encourage you to just connect and allow the Holy Spirit to minister to your heart as we talk about what it means to be a family. Because my experiences, again, have been overwhelmingly positive. There have been negative ones, but they've been overwhelmingly positive. And as I've been reflecting this week, I've been reflecting a lot on what my experience of the church has been. And like, I'm just thinking about things like when I became a Christian, I became part of a youth group in a church, and just every Sunday afternoon, we were just going around each other's houses. We'd go to the park after church. Like, we were just in each other's lives. We helped set up Christian unions at our schools and colleges together. Like, it was such a sense of family. Like, we were such a tight-knit group. And that just really started me off on this journey of what church and family could be. And I remember when we had our daughter, Livy, we didn't cook for 2 weeks. Or shop for 2 weeks, because people just kept on coming and bringing us food and kept on filling our fridge full of stuff. And it just felt like family. And then there's all the little things that happen, like the text messages in the week, kind of people praying for you, people just coming alongside you and putting an arm around your shoulder, people just dropping spontaneously by your house and doing things like that, where you feel the love and you feel people come around you. And like I said, I know that is not everybody's experience. And I think actually it's about us getting to a point where we can all feel included and all feel that we are part of a family. But to help us kind of unpack this, to help us frame this morning, we're going to look at a couple of passages. So if you've got a Bible, I'd encourage you to open it / turn it on. But if you don't have a Bible, don't worry, it's going to go on the screen ahead of me. So the first verse is we're going to be in John chapter 1. Verses 12 to 13. And it says this: "Yet to all who did receive his name, to those who believed in him, he gave the right to become children of God. Children born not of natural descent, nor of human decision or a husband's will, but born of God." Okay, and the second verse is Ephesians chapter 2, verses 19 to 22. Which says this: "Consequently, you are no longer foreigners and strangers, but fellow citizens with God's people and also members of his household, built on the foundation of the apostles and prophets, with Christ Jesus himself as the chief cornerstone. In him, the whole building is joined together and rises to become a holy temple in the Lord. And in him you too are being built together to become a dwelling in which God lives by his Spirit. So if you are anything like me, when you hear a statement like, we're called to be a family, or this is who you are, or this is what you're about, you may ask the question, okay, why? That's where my brain goes, okay? So if this is who I am, or this is who we are, my brain just always goes to the why. Like, why is that who we are, or what we are? And so fortunately, the answer to that is actually quite simple. And the answer to why we are called a family is because God has always worked through family. So God made Adam and Eve. And the first commission to Adam and Eve was, be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth and subdue it. The original commission to humanity was, as a family, expand. And as you expand God's kingdom. It was a family mission, that the family was to go out and to spread God's kingdom throughout the world. And then obviously as we go through Genesis, that continues. Because we see the call of Abraham. And we see that Abraham was called, and it was promised that through Abraham's descendants, his family, all of the nations would be blessed. And obviously that's pointing towards Jesus. And then that obviously then continues on to his son Isaac, and then his son Jacob. And then Jacob has the 12 sons, who are the 12 tribes of Israel, who become the family of God. And the point of Israel, the point of that family was, again, to do the same thing. To go out, to show who God is and what he's like, and draw the nations in as they reflected who God is and what he is like. And so then when we come to Jesus and how we are then included in the family of God, it shouldn't become as a surprise to us that the way God works through his son, one of the things that he does is he makes a family. He creates a family out of his people, because Jesus is like the culmination. He's the fulfillment of this, because Jesus as the Son of God, Jesus as the firstborn, Jesus as the true son of the promise is the one who fulfills this. Because as we then come to Jesus, we are adopted. We're adopted as sons and daughters of the living God. We become part of the family. And as we become part of the family, we are grafted into the wider family of God across all of time and around all of the world. That becomes who we are. That the reason why we here at Gateway are called a family is because God has called all of his people through Jesus into one family as a people. So Galatians chapter 3, verse 26 puts it like this. So in Christ Jesus, you are all children of God through faith. That we have all become Abraham's descendants by faith in Jesus. That we've become part of the big family of God. That when we are saved, we are not saved as individuals. We are saved into a people. We are saved into a family. So if that is why we're called a family, the next question then is what? So if that's the why, the next question is what? What does that look like? What does that mean? Like, what are the implications for us here in Ashford as Gateway Church? And then obviously there's loads of implications. So I just want to focus on two implications this morning. Two things that this means for us here this morning. And the first one is unity in diversity. Okay, unity in diversity. So to be a family, to be a healthy family, is to be united. Okay, so we read in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 3 to 6, make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. There is one body and one Spirit, just as you were called to one hope when you were called. One Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who is over all and through all and in all. That what it means to be a family is to be united. We have one God. We have one faith. We have one salvation, one baptism. There is a unity, there is a thing that we all come to in Jesus. But that unity is not about everyone looking the same, acting the same, thinking the same. That unity comes through our diversity. It comes through our differences. So 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 4 to 6 says this. There are different kinds of gifts, but the same Spirit distributes them. There are different kinds of service, but the same Lord. There are different kinds of working, but in all of them and in every one, it is the same God at work. That we are a family who are united in our diversity. We have got a diversity of, we're so diverse as a people. We've got diversity of gifts. We've got a diversity of cultures, a diversity of backgrounds, a diversity of upbringings, a diversity of economic situations, a diversity of education, etc., etc., etc. Like, we are a diverse community as Gateway Church. But that diversity is our strength if we are united. If we are united as a people, that diversity is our strength. That is how we become all that God wants us to be. And as I've been writing this week, I've been reflecting a lot on what this community has given me in all of its diversity, like what Gateway Church has given me. And I've just been reflecting on things that I've learned from people and lessons I've learned. So that, lessons on parenting, lessons on being diligent at home and at work, lessons on humility and faithfulness, lessons on obedience, lessons just in life, lessons on following Jesus, lessons on kind of persevering through stuff that's hard. And all of these are lessons that I've learned through interacting with the people here. And, these lessons have come through interacting with my African brothers and sisters and my Asian brothers and sisters and my British brothers and sisters and people who are older than me and people who are younger than me. These lessons have not just come from one group of people. It's been as I've actually interacted with loads of different people all across our church community that I have learned and grown so much more than if I just stuck with people who were my age and looked like me and had my experiences. And it has been a genuine privilege to reflect all of these. And if I'm honest, this is one of the things that I love about working with children and young people, is the amount that I learn from them. They've just got such a different way of looking at the world and of viewing the world and how it's different. And there's such benefit and privilege in interacting with people who are completely different from you and see the world in a different way. Because the problem is, without diversity, unity just becomes about conformity or control. So if everyone looks the same, thinks the same, acts the same, dresses the same, it's not unity. It's just conformity. You're just going along with what everyone else is doing. You're not of the same heart and the same mind as the people around you. You've not put any work into really understanding what people are like and what their experiences are and how you can be shaped by their experiences and how you can help shape them. If you're just going along with what everyone else is doing and everyone looks the same and thinks the same, it's conformity. It's not unity. And then what happens is we then miss out on so much of what God has got for us. We miss out on so much of who God is and what he's like. Because you see, God himself is diverse. Because the triune God is diverse. We've got one God, completely united, with there's no issue between the members of the Godhead. There's no conflict. He's one God, but he's three persons. He's Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Three distinct persons with three distinct roles. That God is completely diverse and completely united. And that as a result, his people should look the same. His people should be diverse and his people should be united. And one of the things that has been one of the greatest tragedies of the church in history is that people have kind of battened down the hatches and they've closed ranks and they've closed walls and they've tried to keep in these monochrome kind of environments, whether that is monochrome in terms of race or whether that's monochrome in terms of socioeconomic status or whatever it might be, or even just beliefs about certain things in the Bible, and they've closed ranks. And as a result, we've missed out on so much of who God is and what he's like. And the church has got loads of challenges in the 21st century, but one of the benefit of the church in the 21st century is the diversity that is now amongst its people. It's one of the privileges of being part of the UK, which is such a diverse place now. It's such a benefit. We receive so much as God's people as a result of that, and that is such a blessing and a benefit to us. True unity comes through diversity. So as Paul says in Philippians chapter 2, to be of one mind and one spirit in Christ Jesus, that comes through all of our beautiful differences. But before we move on, we just need to acknowledge that is really hard. Like, we just have to be completely honest that is really hard. Because that sounds great as an ideal, right? Yes, we're diverse and we're united. And then you start talking to people who are different from you, and it's not ideal. Yeah? Like, there are studies that have shown that we are psychologically more prone to interact and talk with people who look like us and speak like us, right? And so that's on the macro level, but that's on a micro level as well. So, like, one of the first people I met at Gateway was David Gaunt. And me and David instantly connected over not being Southern and agreeing that chips should come with gravy. Okay? Because that opinion is the right opinion. But just, you see what I mean? Like, even small things, like there was an instant connection over that. Like, it was instantly easier to talk to him because we had a shared experience, and it was to get to know lots of other people. And actually, we need to acknowledge that, and not just that it's hard work for us to do that we don't normally think to approach and build friendships with people who are different from us. We also just need to acknowledge that none of us have been raised in a vacuum, which means that none of us come to the table without any prejudice or having any attitudes towards people that are sinful or mistaken or ignorant or wrong. Like, all of us come to the table with some sort of prejudice. All of us come to the table with some sort of attitude. And if we're honest, some sort of experience about things that are potentially negative about other people. We make assumptions about people. And actually, what we need to do is, if we are truly to be a united people in all of our diversity, knowing that this is who God is, this is what God is like, and this is God's dream for his kingdom. Like, even if people spend their whole lives in churches that looked the same, they're going to get to heaven, and it's going to be completely different. Because in heaven, and when heaven comes to earth, it's going to be all people from across all time and across all nations. That our future is a diversity of unity. And what God calls us to now is to have heaven on earth, a place where there is unity amongst all of our diversity. But in order to do that, we need to acknowledge where we are stopping ourselves from doing that. And it may be really hard, right? This may be us having to actually really see sin in our lives and ask for forgiveness from ourselves. It may be that we may have to ask forgiveness with other people from our interactions where we have acted out of prejudice or acted out of ignorance. And because we are all in the same boat, we should be okay, and as we have received grace, to show grace in that situation as well. And also to just acknowledge, like, this is awkward. Like, it is easier to talk to people who are like you. So therefore, when you try and talk to people who are not like you, it's awkward. Like, it feels awkward. Like, you feel it in your body. Like, you feel uncomfortable and you want to just fidget. And, like, it is how it feels like. It genuinely feels like that, because actually we have to move through that and towards one another. We have to ask God for courage. And we have to ask God for humility in going, God, I want to be able to actually look silly in this circumstance for the sake of being united with people, for the sake of learning, for the sake of growing, of knowing something more of who God is and what he is like. And I think what I want to be really clear on that is that's not diminishing the experience of anyone who's had a negative experience of that, or who's tried and is exhausted. Because actually, if you have moved to England from another nation, like, you will know instinctively how difficult this is. To assimilate yourself into a different culture and to try and connect with people and get to know people and to learn that, like, how difficult that is. Like, you will know that instinctively in ways that those of us who have only ever lived in England will never know. And so actually we've got lessons to learn from one another, and this doesn't take away from any of the pain or the hardship or the difficulty of it, but if that we are to be a people who reflect God's and who God is calling us to be, then we need to be a people who can be united and love one another and move towards one another. The second thing then is being intergenerational. that part of what it means for us as Gateway Church to be called as a family is to be a church that is intergenerational. In many ways, it can be argued that the family structure exists for the benefit of its youngest member, okay? So we tend to know this instinctively, so you know this whether you're a parent, grandparent, auntie, uncle, cousin, whatever it may be, that you generally move at the pace of the youngest person. So if you have ever been in a situation where you've been around young children and you've gone, I really want to do this thing, so young child, you cannot nap now or eat now, honestly, how has that gone for you? This will not have gone well. Similarly, if you're on a walk and you go for a walk, you're not going to absolutely stride off and be like, see you later, young child. See you in a few miles, we'll wait at the end. You would never do that. We would walk at the pace of the youngest member. We exist as families for the benefit and the upbuilding of our youngest members. And whether that's, you're an older sibling or whether you're a parent or grandparent, whatever it might be, it is for the youngest members that we exist as a unit to benefit. That's what it means to be a family. And the family of God has always had as its mandate to raise the next generation of believers and disciples. It has always been a part of what it means to be the people of God. And it's part of what God is calling us to be as a people of God in Ashford. They've done some research about what causes faith to stick in over 18s. So you've grown up in church, or you've come through church, and what is it that causes faith to stick in over 18s? And one of the things that they have found, it's not the only thing, but it's one of the things that they found, is one of the contributing factors to faith sticking for people over 18 is having a healthy relationship with an adult believer who's not their parent. They found that has a genuine impact on faith sticking in the lives of young people after 18 as they go off, whether that's to work or university, whatever it might be, that is a contributing factor. Because, the phrase is that it takes a village to raise a child, but it takes a whole family of God to raise a disciple. It takes all of us to raise the next generation in faith. And we all contribute in different ways to this, right? So for some of us who are parents, that is a massive role that we play in this. That as parents, God is calling us to disciple, to raise up our children in the love, knowledge, and the fear of Him. That is part of what it means. If we're grandparents, to support that. But also, it's as we move together as a family, we're supporting one another in going, this is really hard with parenting at the moment. What did you do? Or what do you think? Or it could be, as you kind of chat to one another, you go, actually, I'm going to pray for you as a family. I'm going to pray for your children. It's so important for us as a family to not just be praying for our own children. It's so important for us to hold other children and young people in the community up in prayer. And whether that is you go, right, we've got friends in the church and these are our, they've got children and we're going to commit to uphold them in prayer as well as ours. Or whether that's going, actually, we don't have children. And so we're going to commit to pray for, some children every month, different children every month. And we're going to approach parents and just say, look, we'd love to pray for your children. What can we be praying for? We can uphold children in prayer. And that is where if we're going to see our children going further than we have ever gone, it's going to come through a lot of hard work, but more than anything, it's going to come through prayer. And so we need to commit to pray for the children and young people of this community. It may mean finance. It may mean that as you give into the church, you know that you're giving, as part of that giving, that your money is going to be going towards resources and to help children and young people grow in their relationship with God. It's going to be going towards paying staff members, thank you, who are employed to give into that area of church and to devote themselves to that and to build that up. And it may be through kind of your friendships, that as you meet up together as families and as you have those friendships, you build those relationships we've been talking about, that you don't just concentrate on your friends or the adults, but actually that you incorporate building relationships, healthy relationships, safe relationships with all of the family unit. With children and young people as well as adults, that we together are building into one another all together. And lastly, it might be through ministry. It might be through actually going, I've got something to bring to the children and young people of Gateway Church, whether that's on a Sunday morning or through the midweek groups that we run. Like, this is my unashamed plug for you. You know, if you are not serving currently in the church, that actually would you consider serving with the children and youth ministries? Because actually there is, as I've spoken to people, because I've been doing this for quite a long time now, as I speak to people, it's really interesting that people's like reasons for not working with children and young people are often the same. Like, it's not really changed. It's, you know, I wouldn't know how to speak to them, or I'm not really cool or relevant enough, or, you know, they scare me. It's genuine. It's a genuine response I get more often than you know. But the truth is, if you know how to speak to people, if you can talk to people, and if you can turn up, more than anything, those two things are things that children and young people need. They don't need you to know who's the latest star on TikTok. They don't need you to know the music that they're listening to. Like, they don't need those things. They need you to turn up, and they need you to be able to listen and to input into their lives. Okay? So if you think you can do that, and that you consider praying about joining that as a ministry. Okay, so if that's the what, we've done the why, we've done the what, it has to then land with the how. Okay? If that's why we are called as a family of God, if that is what it would look like, some things it would look like for us as a people, like, then it's the how. Like, how do we do this? How do we be a family all together? And ultimately, it's just about loving the people around us. Like genuinely, that is it. It is about loving the people around us. So John chapter 13, verse 35 says, "By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another." Like, that "if" has got so much weight to it, doesn't it? By this, people will know you're my disciples, if you love one another. It is only as we love one another as God's people that people will see that we truly belong to him. That we need to love and care for one another. And this looks like a whole load of different things, right? Like, I do not have any time to go into all the variety of what love is and what it looks like and what it could mean. But the bare minimum of this, right? The bare minimum of what this looks like is building healthy relationships with each other. Like, that's the bare minimum. Like, if we're not going to go any further, we're not going to look into sacrifice and all this stuff that love truly looks like. The bare minimum is just building healthy relationships with one another. And this comes through loads of things, right? It comes through practicing hospitality, having people in and out of our homes. It looks like joining a group. A group is a great place, and I think is one of an easy place where if we want to be united and diverse, like, groups are a great space to do that, because we don't really like chat to everyone we know and go, are you all joining one group? We tend to just kind of join a group that fits with us, and therefore we get that level of diversity. It will be checking in on people in the week, giving them a text message, giving them a call. That's when you pick up the phone and dial the numbers for people that have forgot. And above everything else, it means coming together. So it means, and this is my favorite part of what it means to be the family of God, is it's coming together. So it's coming together in joy and celebration, right? So has someone got a promotion? Has someone had a baby? Has someone been like persevering in prayer for something and they've received an answer to that prayer? And it's going, when that happens, like, we should gather around those people in joy and celebration. Like, whatever that looks like, right? That might mean dropping something off at the house, like flowers and a card. It may mean like actually having a party or doing something significant because something has happened. We should be celebrating one another's, even like little minds, like birthdays. Like, let's be more involved in each other's lives and celebrating one another, who God has made us to be. We should be rejoicing with one another as things go well in our lives. And then the opposite is also true, that we should be with each other when stuff goes wrong. That when stuff goes wrong, we should be able to be like Job's friends who just come and sit and don't need to say anything. They're just like, I've got nothing, right? Like, this thing has happened, I've got nothing. I've got no wisdom, I've got nothing to offer, but I'm just going to be here. I'm just going to be here. I'm just going to be with you. You know, it might, and it would be as people go through hard times, like, whatever it might be. It might be a diagnosis, it might be a financial struggle, whatever it be. It's about coming around and just being present with people in those moments. And it means upholding one another in prayer and just committing to pray for our brothers and sisters. And as we close, I just want to give a final word about something, because our culture has got a mentality of efficiency and economics, right? So our culture is obsessed with doing things as efficiently, as fast, as best as possible, and doing it in a way that makes us like the most cash or frees up the most time, or whatever it might be, right? Like, that is our culture's push. And the issue is that building relationships, building healthy relationships, it doesn't work like that. Like, building a healthy relationship with someone is completely inefficient. Like, you know, if you're going to look at like a cost-benefit analysis, like, it's going to take you a long time of building until you start getting that benefit. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of us persevering through things. It takes a lot of us forgiving. It takes a lot of us planning. It takes all of these things to build relationships with people. But this is what it means to be the family of God, that we need to build healthy relationships with one another, to grow together, to be all that God has got for us to be. You know, we should work hard for the Lord, but the economics of the kingdom is that the wealth and the riches are in people. They're in loving people and letting people love us so that we can become more like Jesus. We're called to be a family, united yet diverse, raising the next generation, giving and receiving the love of God and the life found in him.